Welcome, my dear friends. Today, I want to tell you a story that changed my life, and maybe it can change yours too. Have you ever felt like you were always running? Running late, running behind, running without direction. That was me. I woke up tired every morning. My eyes would open, but my heart still felt heavy. The alarm kept ringing, but I kept turning it off. I had no energy, no motivation, and no excitement. I rushed through my day with no focus, no joy, and no plan. I forgot things. I missed small moments. I felt like life was passing me by. And every night, I would lie in bed and think, another day is gone, and I did nothing for myself. By night, I felt defeated. By morning, it started all over again. The same cycle, the same stress, the same silent pain. I was alive. But I wasn't really living until one small decision changed everything. It didn't cost money. It didn't need permission. It just needed one thing, a little courage. That decision was waking up at 5 a.m. That morning I was scared. I know it sounds strange, but it's true. I was not afraid of the dark or being alone. I was afraid of something deeper, the fear of failing again. I had promised myself I would wake up at 5 a.m. I set my alarm and told myself, this time will be different. But when the alarm rang, my body didn't move. My heart sank. I almost turned it off and went back to sleep. The sky outside was still dark. My room was cold and quiet. My bed felt warm and safe, but my mind was full of noise. I thought about all the times I had made promises to myself and broken them. That memory hurt. I didn't want to feel like a failure again, so even though every part of me wanted to stay in bed, I sat up. My body was heavy. My eyes were tired. But I stood up slowly and walked to the window. The street outside was empty. No people, no cars, no sound. Just silence. A kind of silence I hadn't felt in a long time. And for the first time, that silence didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful. I walked to the kitchen and made a cup of tea. I didn't look at my phone. I didn't check messages. I didn't think about the day ahead. I just stood there and waited for the water to boil. Holding that warm cup in my hands felt like holding a small piece of peace. I sat down at the table and opened my notebook. I didn't know what to write, so I just wrote what I was feeling. This is my first 5 a.m. I'm scared, but I'm trying. I hope this becomes something beautiful. The words were simple, but they were honest. In that quiet hour, something small but powerful happened. I didn't feel lazy. I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel like I was failing. I felt calm. I felt proud. Just a little, but it was enough to make me want to do it again. That morning didn't change my life in one day, but it opened a door, a quiet door to a new beginning. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. It surprised me. My eyes opened on their own, and for a second, I didn't know why. Then I saw the clock, 4:57 a.m., just 3 minutes before the alarm. I smiled, a small smile, but real. My body was still tired, but my heart felt light. I stood up more easily this time. I didn't fight with myself. I didn't feel that same heavy sadness. Again, the world outside was dark and quiet. The streets were still. The sky was soft and gray. But this time, I wasn't afraid of the silence. I welcomed it. It felt like the world was giving me space to breathe. I made my tea like before and sat in the same chair, notebook open in front of me. But today, I wanted to do more. I wanted to use this time for something that mattered, something just for me. That's when I picked up my English book. It had been months since I had touched it, maybe more. Every time before, I told myself I was too busy, too tired, too late. But today, I had time. I had a whole hour and no one needed me. So I opened the book and started to read. Slowly, quietly, one sentence at a time. The words were simple, but I still had to focus. I underlined what I didn't know. I repeated sentences out loud. I even smiled when I understood something new. That feeling of learning something, even something small, felt so good. Like I was doing something right for the first time in a long time. I finished one short chapter and looked at the clock. It had only been 20 minutes. I still had time. So I wrote again in my notebook. Today I studied English, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. That 1 hour felt like a gift I gave to myself. No one told me to wake up early, no one forced me to study. It was my decision, and that made it powerful. The rest of the day felt different. I didn't feel perfect. I didn't do everything right, but I felt calm. I felt proud. I felt like I had started something, and that something was mine. Days passed, then a week, and I was still waking up at 5 a.m. It didn't feel strange anymore. In fact, it started to feel like my favorite part of the day. That one quiet hour in the morning became my safe space, my small world where I didn't have to rush, explain, or prove anything to anyone. It was mine, and no one could take it from me. Each morning, I followed a simple routine. I made tea, sat at the same spot near the window, and opened my notebook. I wrote whatever I was feeling, my thoughts, my doubts, my hopes. Sometimes just one sentence, sometimes a full page. Writing helped me hear my own voice again, and slowly that voice became kinder. After journaling, I picked up my English notebook. I didn't pressure myself to learn everything. I just picked 5 new words a day. Some mornings, I watched short English videos or listened to slow, clear podcasts. Other mornings, I read short stories or repeated simple phrases in front of the mirror. I wasn't perfect, but I was showing up, and that changed everything. One morning, while I was reading, I realized something. I wasn't translating every word in my head anymore. I understood the meaning. Not all of it, but enough to feel proud. That one small moment made me smile. Maybe I can really do this, I thought. The change wasn't loud. It wasn't fast, but it was real. I started speaking more English during the day, just small sentences. I would look in the mirror and say things like, "I'm proud of you," or "You are improving every day." At first it felt silly, but slowly it felt powerful. Those words healed something inside me. Even people around me started to notice. My face looked calmer, my voice was softer, my eyes looked less tired. Someone even asked me, "What's different about you lately?" I just smiled. They wouldn't understand. It was just 1 hour a day. But that 1 hour was changing my whole life. It wasn't about waking up early anymore. It was about who I was becoming in those hours. A woman who was growing. And for the first time in years, I wasn't just alive. I was living. It was going so well. Until it wasn't. One night I slept late. I was tired and my mind was full of noise. I couldn't stop thinking about everything: bills, work, people, life. I told myself, "It's okay, just one late night, you'll still wake up at 5. But I didn't. The alarm rang the next morning and I didn't move. I turned it off without thinking. My eyes stayed shut. My body refused to get up. And when I finally opened my eyes, it was already 8 a.m. I sat up quickly, heart beating fast. I felt confused, upset, and disappointed. That one missed morning hurt more than I expected. It felt like I had broken something special. I didn't drink my tea. I didn't write in my notebook. I didn't study. I just sat in silence, thinking, was this all a dream? Am I still the same person who gives up? That day, everything felt heavier. I was slower. I was distracted. I kept thinking about how I failed. The worst part wasn't missing the alarm, it was the way I spoke to myself after. My old voice returned, the one that said, "You'll never change. You're just pretending. You always quit." For a moment, I believed it. The next day, I didn't wake up early either. I told myself I was tired. The third day, the same thing happened. It was as if everything I had built was starting to fall apart. Slowly, quietly. No one else noticed, but inside, I was slipping. Then, on the fourth morning, I sat up in bed at 6 a.m., not 5, but not too late. The sky was still soft, the house was still quiet, and I had a choice: stay in bed and repeat the mistake, or forgive myself and begin again. I got up. My hands were shaking, and my heart felt heavy. But I walked to the kitchen, made my tea, and sat at the table like I used to. I opened my notebook and wrote one line. Falling is not the end. Staying down is. I didn't do much that morning. I just sat there. I didn't study. I didn't read. But I was present. I was awake. I was trying again. And somehow that mattered more than being perfect. At that moment, I learned something powerful. Discipline isn't about never falling. It's about standing back up. Growth isn't a straight line. It has bumps, pauses, and broken pieces. But if you keep showing up, even after the fall, you win. After that fall, I didn't go back to being perfect, but I became more real. I started waking up at 5 a.m. again, but this time with more kindness in my heart. I no longer expected every day to feel magical. Some mornings were quiet and soft. Others were slow and heavy. But I kept showing up. That's what mattered most. The biggest change wasn't in my schedule. It was in my attitude. I was no longer chasing perfection. I was choosing progress. I stopped punishing myself for mistakes. I started saying things like, "It's okay. You're trying. You're learning." Those simple words changed everything. I returned to my little morning routine: tea, writing, reading, and practicing English. I could feel myself getting better. My words became clearer. My thoughts became stronger. I understood more. I could speak more. I even recorded myself reading English stories aloud just to hear my voice. I was shy at first, but slowly I became proud of how far I had come. Soon, The peace I found at 5 a.m. started to touch the rest of my life. I spoke more gently to others. I listened more. I smiled more. I had more control over my day, my time, and my emotions. I wasn't perfect, but I was awake not just in the morning, but in my heart. Then something unexpected happened. One day, someone messaged me and said, "I saw your routine. I love your energy. You've inspired me to try waking up early, too." I didn't know what to say. I was shocked. Me? Inspiring someone? I was just a woman trying not to give up. But at that moment, I realized something powerful. We don't have to be famous or rich or perfect to be an inspiration. We just have to be real, consistent, honest. We just have to rise even after we fall. And from that day on, I started sharing small pieces of my journey, not because I was an expert, but because I was human. I shared how I started with 1 hour, how I struggled, how I cried, how I got back up, and how it slowly changed everything. I didn't wake up at 5 a.m. to change the world. I did it to change myself. But maybe, in doing that, I helped someone else believe they could change too. I didn't expect my life to change. I just wanted to feel better. But now, when I look back, I can see how one small choice of waking up at 5 a.m. started something so much bigger. That quiet hour became the foundation of everything I have today. It gave me a chance to reconnect with myself, to heal, and to grow. Now, my mornings are not just routines. They are rituals of love. I still wake up early, not because I have to, but because I want to. I no longer feel lost when the day begins. I wake up with purpose. I plan. I learn. I move forward. I set goals now, real goals. I dream bigger. I want to speak English with confidence. I want to help others. I want to build something that matters. And it all began with 1 hour. Just one quiet hour that no one else could see, but it changed everything inside me. Sometimes people ask, "How did you change your life?" And I smiled gently and said, "I stopped waiting. I started waking up. It wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was just me, choosing to show up even when it was hard, choosing to give myself time, choosing to love myself enough to try again and again." If you are listening to this and you feel stuck, tired, or small, I want you to know something. You don't have to do everything. You just have to do one thing. Give yourself 1 hour, 1 hour to breathe, 1 hour to learn, 1 hour to rise, because that 1 hour might just become the hour that changes your whole life like it did mine.